Welcome back, beautiful souls. You're watching the Femme formula, the space where power meets poise and healing becomes art. There comes a moment in many women's lives when they realize they are exhausted, not physically, not because they've been working too hard, not because they haven't slept enough. A different kind of exhaustion, the kind that settles deep into the soul, the kind that appears when you've spent years trying to be everything you're supposed to be. The good daughter, the desirable woman, the supportive friend, the understanding partner, the successful professional, the confident woman, the healed woman, the feminine woman, the woman who has it all together. And one day, despite doing everything right, a strange question emerges. Why does none of this feel like me? From the outside, everything may appear perfectly fine. You are functioning, achieving, showing up, smiling, building a life. But beneath the surface, something feels disconnected, as if you've spent years becoming who you thought you should be, while quietly drifting away from who you actually are. What many women discover in that moment is uncomfortable. They haven't only been living, they've been performing. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of modern life is that performance is often rewarded. People applaud it, admire it, validate it, until eventually the woman herself begins confusing the performance for her identity. But the most powerful women are never performing, not because they reject beauty, ambition, success, or love, but because they refuse to build their identity around being watched. And understanding that distinction may change the way you see yourself forever. The age of performance. We live in an era obsessed with perception. Never before have human beings been so aware of how they appear, how they look, how they sound, how they are interpreted, how they are received. Social media did not create this tendency. It simply gave it a stage. Long before women curated their lives online, many learned how to curate themselves emotionally. Some learned that expressing anger made people uncomfortable, so they became agreeable. Some learned that intelligence intimidated people, so they softened themselves. Some learned that vulnerability felt unsafe, so they became guarded. Some learned that being needed brought love, so they became indispensable. Others learned that being attractive brought attention, so they began measuring their worth through desirability. Every adaptation made sense. Every adjustment was understandable. Every mask served a purpose. But over time, something subtle happened. The adaptation became automatic. The performance became permanent. And eventually, the mask no longer felt like a mask. It felt like a personality. This is why so many women struggle to answer a surprisingly simple question: who am I when nobody needs anything from me? Because for years, their identity was built around meeting expectations, not discovering themselves. And there is a profound difference between the two. The performance of being good. One of the most invisible performances women carry is not the performance of confidence. It is the performance of goodness. Because from a very young age, many women are taught that being loved is connected to being pleasing. Be kind, be patient, be understanding, be accommodating, be easy to be around, be grateful, be helpful, be forgiving, be selfless. And while none of these qualities are inherently wrong, they can become dangerous when they are disconnected from authenticity. Because eventually, a woman begins saying yes when she means no. She begins giving when she is depleted. She begins understanding everyone except herself. She becomes so skilled at being who others need her to be that she loses contact with what she needs. The performance of goodness is particularly deceptive because society rewards it. People praise it, celebrate it, depend on it. But sometimes what appears to be kindness is actually fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing others, fear of losing love. And when a woman constantly sacrifices herself to maintain approval, she may gain acceptance while losing authenticity. That is not power. It is self-abandonment disguised as virtue. The performance of having it all together. Another performance many women know intimately is the performance of certainty, the performance of being okay, the performance of being strong, the performance of being unbothered. Some women become experts at appearing composed. No one sees their anxiety. No one sees their loneliness. No one sees their doubts. They smile. They function. They continue moving forward. And everyone assumes they are fine. But beneath the surface, they are exhausted from carrying a version of themselves that feels increasingly heavy. Because maintaining an image requires constant effort. You must remember who you're pretending to be. You must constantly monitor how you're being perceived. You must continually protect the character you've created. And eventually, you realize something startling. The image you've been protecting may be preventing genuine connection, because people can only connect with who you truly are, not who you're pretending to be. Even healing can become a performance. This may be one of the most important conversations women are not having. Even healing can become a performance. Even growth can become a performance. Even self-awareness can become a performance. There are women who have learned the language of healing so well that they no longer know the difference between processing an emotion and performing emotional intelligence. They know all the right words, all the right concepts, all the right insights. But beneath the vocabulary, they remain disconnected from themselves. Instead of asking, "What do I genuinely feel?" they begin asking, "What should an emotionally evolved woman feel?" Instead of experiencing life directly, they start filtering life through an idealized identity. And suddenly, healing becomes another role, another image, another performance. But true healing is rarely elegant. It is messy, contradictory, humbling. It doesn't always look wise. It doesn't always look graceful. Real growth requires honesty. And honesty is impossible when your primary goal is maintaining an image. The hidden cost of living for an audience. The exhausting part about performance is not the performance itself. It is the constant self-monitoring. Imagine moving through life while continuously wondering, do they like me? Do they approve? Do I seem attractive? Do I sound intelligent? Am I saying the right thing? Am I enough? Every one of those questions redirects your attention away from life and back toward yourself. You stop experiencing reality. You start evaluating yourself inside reality. And this is where anxiety thrives, because you are no longer living, you are observing yourself live, you become both actor and audience. And that split creates a profound sense of disconnection. Many women assume confidence means becoming more impressive, but often confidence is simply becoming less concerned with managing impressions. The truly powerful woman is not constantly watching herself. She is engaged with reality, present with people, present with herself, present with her life. And presence is far rarer than perfection. Presence is what people are actually drawn to. There is a reason some women captivate people without trying. It is not always beauty. It is not always status. It is not always charisma. More often, it is presence. Presence is what happens when your attention is fully where you are. You are not mentally editing yourself. You are not performing confidence. You are not trying to manufacture intrigue. You are not calculating how you're being perceived. You are simply there. And people feel that, because presence communicates something incredibly rare. It communicates self-trust. A woman who trusts herself does not need every interaction to validate her worth. She does not need universal approval. She does not need everyone to understand her. And because she is no longer consumed by herself, she becomes available to the moment. Ironically, that is often what creates magnetism. The women who command attention are often the women least obsessed with receiving it, because their attention is invested in life itself, not in managing their image. Why powerful women are comfortable being misunderstood. One of the clearest signs that a woman is becoming self-possessed is her willingness to be misunderstood, not because misunderstanding feels good. It doesn't. But because she has accepted something most people spend years resisting. You cannot control other people's perceptions. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, no matter how perfectly you behave, no matter how much you perform, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will judge you unfairly. Someone will project their own story onto you. And once a woman truly understands this, something shifts. She stops living for interpretation. She starts living for truth. She realizes that peace is found not in controlling perception, but in remaining connected to herself despite perception. That realization changes everything, because the energy once spent managing opinions becomes available for growth, for purpose, for creation. Black cat energy reframed. This is why black cat energy is so often misunderstood. People think it is about being cold, distant, unavailable, mysterious, difficult. But genuine black cat energy has very little to do with strategy. At its core, it is simply self-possession. It is the energy of a woman whose attention belongs to herself. A woman who enjoys attention but does not depend on it. A woman who welcomes love but does not build her identity around being chosen. A woman whose self-worth remains intact regardless of who approves of her. People often describe such women as mysterious, but what they are usually sensing is autonomy, an inner world, a life that exists beyond external validation, a woman who is no longer negotiating her value through other people's reactions. That freedom feels powerful, because it is the psychology of self-possession. The older you get, the more you realize that self-possession is one of the rarest forms of power. Most people are possessed by something. Approval, comparison, attention, status, fear, validation. The self-possessed woman is different, not because she is fearless, not because she has mastered life, but because she has stopped outsourcing her identity. Her standards come from within, her values come from within, her decisions come from within, her confidence comes from within. She is no longer waiting for the world to tell her who she is, and that internal stability changes the way she moves through life. Praise becomes pleasant but unnecessary. Criticism becomes informative but not defining. Rejection becomes painful but not catastrophic, because her relationship with herself remains intact. And that stability is what people often mistake for confidence, when in reality it is self-trust. The shift from performing to being. Perhaps the greatest transformation a woman can experience is not becoming more impressive. It is becoming more real. The shift begins when she stops asking, "How am I being perceived?" and starts asking, "Who am I becoming?" That question changes everything. Because becoming is an inward journey. Performance is an outward one. Performance asks, "How do I appear?" Becoming asks, "What is true?" Performance seeks approval. Becoming seeks alignment. Performance depends on an audience. Becoming depends on honesty. And while performance may attract attention, only authenticity creates freedom. The irony is that many women spend years chasing confidence without realizing confidence is often the byproduct of authenticity. When you stop carrying masks, you stop carrying their weight. When you stop performing identities, you stop fearing their collapse. When you stop living for approval, you stop being controlled by it. And that is where genuine power emerges, not from becoming someone new, but from finally returning to yourself. Most women spend the first half of their lives learning who they need to be in order to be loved. The second half begins when they ask a different question. Who am I when I no longer need to perform for love? Because the most powerful women are not the women who attract the most attention. They are the women who are least controlled by it. The moment you stop treating life as a stage, you stop living for an audience. And that is where real power begins. Not when a woman becomes more impressive. Not when she becomes more admired. Not when she becomes more desired, but when she becomes more real. When she trusts herself enough to stop performing. When she belongs to herself. And when she finally understands that her worth was never something she needed to prove. It was something she needed to remember. Until next time, stay mysterious, stay powerful, and stay unforgettable. With love, always, the Femme formula.